And greetings, friends around the world. Let's visit an imaginary classroom because I believe it'll make a good illustration, a parable. Suppose this is a classroom that exists somewhere in mythology or Twilight Zone or imagination, but it's a strange classroom where people are held back according to their progress or lack of progress. They're not advanced to the second grade and the third grade because they've mastered math or spelling or reading. They're held back on the basis of their spiritual progress. And so when you visit this imaginary classroom of first graders, you expect to find young children, but to your astonishment, you find that there are people in there who are not only gray-headed and wrinkled, there are people in this imaginary classroom who are members of your community, who serve in positions of authority. But in this real school, in our minds, which only allows people to progress according to their own achievement, their own growth, and not according to their age, shows that some people have never got beyond the first grade. They don't know they're stuck in first grade. They think they're adults. Some of them may be judges, teachers, businessmen, management in factories, supervisors, salesmen, athletes, all kinds of people of different races, both genders. But in this vision that you're experiencing in your mind, you see people's mental age. Some never progress beyond the first grade. They're not aware of their condition. But in this vision, you have eyes to see what is real, and you see their real age. And of course, you're somewhat disturbed because these are the people that are running the country. I'm using this analogy of the imaginary schoolroom so that I can elaborate on some advice given by a Soviet defector who came to America to warn us and to help us survive a psychological attack of Marxist subversion against our country and many other countries around the world. It looks like they're making good progress subverting the United States. Now remember, I started out with the analogy of the classroom, a special classroom that reveals people's true age. Yuri was one of the robotic haters, the liars, the propagandists, the manipulators sent out under the direction of his country, to which at first he felt, a patriotic obligation to the USSR. But eventually he saw the light, and he was repulsed by what he came to understand about what his government was actually doing to the world, and he quit. He disguised himself and slipped out of India and defected to the West. And after defecting to the West and trying to establish himself in a position where he could earn his own livelihood independently from his former job as a supposed journalist, but he began to lecture in various countries. I know for a fact he lectured in 2 different ones. And one of his lectures was in Los Angeles, where he concluded with the following advice. He warned his listeners not to rely solely on missiles and armies for defense against Marxist subversion, but to rather defend themselves with the power of your spirit and moral superiority. He used the word religion, and in the same context he mentioned the religion of Babylon, the religions of the ancient Hindu civilizations, the ancient Native American Indians in the subcontinent we call South America, the Incas and the Aztec. And he said that when these people lost their religion, they lost everything. That was what was holding the country together. religion. And of course, there's a fine line between religion and politics. There's a lot of emotionally immature people in religion and politics. They're some of the loudest sometimes. You know, take Ronald Reagan, for example. You remember him screaming and pounding on the podium, kind of like Hitler? No, he didn't do that. He had a power about him, a spirit. He was superior on the inside, and everybody could see it. It's not something you can buy. It's not something that someone can give you. This moral superiority. In regard to religion, it seems that Yuri Bezmenov, Bezmenov is probably an atheist. And he seemed to make no distinction. He said we needed to return to religion. And he mentioned in the same breath the religions of Babylon and the Indus River, the Indies civilizations, the Hindus of India, the religions of the Aztec Indians and the Incas. He seemed to be saying it really doesn't matter whether you're Pentecostal or Catholic. I can grasp what he's saying because when America went to war in World War II, we had more than just tanks and trucks and guns. Kind of like a football team that comes from behind, a disadvantaged football team that comes from behind because of the power of their spirit. He wasn't really advocating religion, I don't believe, because religion is a set of teachings for beginners. Religion, as it is taught to children, is for babes. It's a start. It's a foundation. It's like training wheels on a bicycle, and a mentor holding your bicycle as you learn to ride your bicycle. But some people never progress beyond that point. They stay in first grade all their lives. I suspect that this concept of the golden rule, it's more blessed to give than to receive, cannot be understood by the emotionally immature. It cannot be understood by the selfish. A selfish person would say, oh, you claim to be a Christian. You believe it's more blessed to give than to receive. I want $20. Hand it over. See, that's his mindset. He can't grasp it. And he'll never benefit from this rule. This law that governs our minds. So, of course, I'm not advocating turning all your possessions over to those who would squander them. Of course, I'm talking about giving of yourselves. A person can study his Bible or his Quran relentlessly for hours every day and never grasp this golden rule. And a person of some other religion, not your own, can actually grasp this golden rule even though he's not a member of your church. But such a person would make a wonderful ally. And speaking of immigration, such a person would make a wonderful citizen. Emotional maturity can be to some degree taught. It can be taught through example. We all absorb a culture through osmosis from those around us. The second graders can lead the first graders out of captivity. It's not as though maturity can be granted to the first graders, but it can be offered to the first graders, and they have to reach out and accept it. But if there's no one there to offer it to them, they'll never have anything to accept.